Recently I posted a review of the M1 Mac Mini. Now on the whole it was a machine that I really liked and it was a favourable review, but after 2 months I'm now having a few issues and I just thought I'd share those with you today. First let's look at Bluetooth. At the time of my review I wasn't experiencing any of the issues reported by other users, but about a week after I posted my review my M1 Mac suddenly lost connection to both my Apple and my third-party keypads. I tried turning both keypads on and off several times and replaced the batteries. After about half an hour of frustration, the Mac asked me to punch in some codes for both devices and finally they reconnected. Now I thought this had solved the problem, but then the same thing happened with my favourite Logitech Bluetooth mouse. Again, lots of turning on and off and eventually reconnecting. I did some research on YouTube and found out that by powering down my Mac, taking out the power cord for 10 seconds, then reconnecting it and waiting another 5 seconds before turning on, the Bluetooth would reset itself. It sounds pretty clunky, but it did actually work. But here's the kicker, it only works for Apple devices. So now every time I turn on my Mac Mini, if I want to sign in via Bluetooth, the only way I can do this is with an Apple keypad and mouse. And none of my third-party devices will work until I've done so. Essentially this means that now signing into a Mac Mini via Bluetooth has become proprietary. So just remember, if you are thinking of buying an M1 Mac Mini, then you will have to either own an Apple keypad or have a good old-fashioned USB keypad on hand, otherwise you won't even be able to sign in or set up your machine. Luckily I do have an Apple keypad and it happens to be my favourite keypad of all time, but I've never really liked the Magic Mouse. Its flat shape makes it really uncomfortable for long editing sessions, and its touch sensitivity makes it annoyingly inaccurate for fine control. And don't get me started on the fact that you can't even use it while it's charging. Now let's look at video editing, which I raved about in my review. Now that review was mostly shot in 4K with clips lasting no longer than 10 seconds, which my base model Mac Mini edited with no problems. And for the first time I was able to edit in full quality video without the need to make any proxy files. But in my next video I did start to have a few problems. Now and again the timeline would stutter and I'd start to get dropped frames. This began to get worse and worse, and eventually I had to slow down my editing process in order for the Mac to catch up. I tried to figure out what I was doing differently, and eventually the answer came to me. I was using one very large 4K file and the machine seemed to be struggling with it, and that was my piece to camera. Now when this happens, the SSD automatically kicks in, taking part of the load. This is called SSD swapping, and for some people it's a very bad thing as it could potentially cut down the life of your SSD. Now all of this isn't really the fault of the M1 Mac Mini, it's more the way I'm using it, expecting superhero performance out of a little old base model. So for the moment, if I am shooting very long 4K files, I'll just have to go back to the first world problem of making proxies before I start editing. And as for SSD swapping, well, it really doesn't bother me because I believe that this SSD is probably going to last for several thousand hours, and by that time I'll have moved on to my next machine anyway. The last issue I started to have is with sound recording. Now this is pretty vital for me as I happen to be a professional voiceover artist. Now everything was just going fine until I would walk away from my machine for a couple of minutes. Then when I returned, if the computer had gone to sleep, it would completely fail to recognise the sound card between it and my microphone. By total accident, I discovered a temporary workaround for this. I'd close down the recording program I work in, Audacity, unplug my sound card, plug it back in, and hey presto, the machine would recognise the sound card again. Does this sound familiar? Eventually though, I found out that the problem wasn't with my Mac, but with my sound card. It's an old Lexicon Alpha, and you can't even download new drivers for it anymore. So the next thing I did was order myself a brand new Scarlett Solo, and within a few plug-and-play minutes, my professional voiceover booth was up and running again. So after 2 months with the M1 Mac Mini, what's my verdict? Well, it's pretty much the same as it was in my first review, and I stand by that. It is a great machine. I have been able to find answers to all of the problems I've been having. Not all necessarily the answers I wanted. For instance, the Bluetooth. The fact that that's now a Mac-only signing in zone is not a good thing, and I think that needs to change back. When it comes to video editing, I'm really happy with the form factor of the Mac Mini and the price, and if I have to keep on making proxy files, it's not really a big issue for me, and I advise anyone else who owns a Mac Mini to also keep on doing the same thing, just in case. That's it for this week, guys. If you've had any of the issues that I've been having with your Mac Mini, then please do share them in the comments section down below and some of the answers that you came up with to sort out your machine. Thanks very much. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.